Welcome to A Fine Time, The Nanny Revisited. This is a podcast about The Nanny, where we recap each episode and then discuss, sharing our own unique take on each episode. I'm Bernadette.
And I'm Debbie. Today, we're talking about episode 108, Mommy and My. As usual, we'll start with a brief summary of the episode. In high school, elementary school, Fran and Val visited a UNICEF fair where they adopted a Cambodian orphan for 17 cents per day. Now, 19 years old, Mei Ling has decided to come to New York to visit her adoptive mothers. From the moment of her arrival, things take a turn for the worse. Mei Ling borrows Fran's clothing without asking. Fran and Val begin fighting, necessitating a couples therapy session with Dr. Miller. Then Fran suspects that Mai is trying to seduce Maxwell out from under her. As Maxwell, thankfully, dispels Fran's concern, they realize that Brighton is most in danger of falling for her. And they promptly are proven right when Mei Ling explains that she and Brighton got engaged so that she can get her green card. Fran and Val, now back together, agree to disown her, but change their minds once they learn that she has befriended Barbara Streisand's child. Bernadette, do you have anything you want to add?
I do not.
All right, would you like to take us to scene one?
Yes, so we are starting out in the kitchen. Fran and Val are already there, but soon Sylvia and Yetta come in through the side door. And she's telling Sylvia is telling Fran, your grandmother is such a sucker. She thinks she's a finalist in Ed McMahon's Publishers Clearinghouse. And Yetta's just like, oh, you're just jealous because I'm going to be a millionaire. You better be
Mm-hmm.
nice to me because I've got a very long memory. Then, of course, she turns to Fran at this. Waitress, could I get a cup of decaf?
Exactly.
So Sylvia then she's both Yetta and Sylvia are now seated at the kitchen table, and Sylvia pulls out her bag and she's rifling through it. And I don't know if you noticed that she took out both bananas and peanut butter. Um, and she finally gets to something that she is supposed to give to Fran. Fran, I got a letter for you. It's from Cambodia. And Yetta's like, Cambodia? Oh my God. Pack your bags. We'll pack her bags. We'll hide her in Canada.
Yep.
And Fran, though, is looking at the letter. Oh, look, Val, it's from Mei Ling. And Yetta's like, who's Mei Ling? And Sylvia's like, oi, please. These two Michiganas adopted an orphan in high school for 17 cents a day. Side note, wasn't it last week or the week before where you could get a meal for 17 cents?
It was last episode. Yeah, Fran could get a full, was it 7-course dinner for 17 cents
Yeah.
in
So
Atlantic City with a coupon.
interesting connection with the 17 cents. And yet it says, what a deal. Or sorry, what a steal. Bell peppers are $4.99 a pound.
Mm-hmm.
So Fran, though, is defending her and Val. She's saying, Ma, we weren't Michiganas. That poor child happens to come from a country where you gotta scrape and scrounge and fight for every last morsel of food. At this point, of course, Fran's reaching for something, food, at the same time Sylvia is. And they get into a little bit of a tussle where Fran's like, stop it, Mom. And Sylvia's like, let go of it or I'll kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Val, who has taken over reading the letter, says to Fran, she's coming to New York 3 weeks from the date of this letter, which is tomorrow. And
Convenient.
Sylvia's like, oh, sorry, I taped it to the refrigerator to give to you, and then I forgot it was there. And Fran's like, you forgot because the refrigerator door is never closed.
Mm-hmm.
And Val, though, is like, oh, Fran, I can't believe our little girl is coming to see us. I wonder which one she'll look like. And
Right.
Fran's like rolling her eyes, Val, she's not gonna look like one of us. She's adopted. And Val's like, boy, am I an idiot? And Fran's like, oh no. And Val's like, well, let's just pray she inherited your brains. And
Yep.
Fran kind of like turns to her mother and says, she's got a very good heart. To which Sylvia says, so does an artichoke.
Yep.
And that is our opening scene. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No. Um, no.
Okay.
So
Well, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'll take us to the office then.
Uh-huh.
So Niles walks in carrying a sandwich and he says to Maxwell, who's sitting at the desk, "Here's your sandwich, sir." No response from Maxwell, so Niles continues, "Thank you, Niles. You're welcome, sir. All you do for me and a heart contingent on top of it. Oh, wouldn't let a little angina keep me from picking up your freshly baked focaccia bread at 4 a.m. in the morning." And that gets Maxwell's attention. "You're right, Niles. I don't appreciate you." And then before Niles can say anything else, Maxwell continues, "Well, that's because I don't do squat around here, sir." "Oh, perhaps you should put more effort into it, old man." "Well, I can't, sir. I'm a lazy old house frog." And Niles is like, "All I wanted was a simple thank you. I suppose in order to get some attention around here, I have to hop up on your desk in my short skirt." Maxwell takes his glasses off. "Did you say my?" And Niles is like, "I was putting myself in Miss Fine's shoes." And Maxwell's like, "Well, you can't wear those wingtips with your skirt. Makes you look stumpy." And Niles turns to him and says, "He who belts, 'I'm going to wash that man right out of my hair' in the shower should not throw stones. I assure you, I am the most masculine one in this room." In walks Cece until now. And so Cece walks in and she has a big bag over her
Yeah.
shoulder. And
Mm-hmm.
she says, "Maxwell, I can't believe what they get away with on TV these days. I was watching a rerun of Seinfeld, and Elaine must have been, I don't know, 12 months pregnant, and they didn't even acknowledge this. They just kept her behind these huge props." And so she like turns around, moves the bags, so like still hiding her, pregnancy, the actress's actual pregnancy. She picks
Mm-hmm.
up the plant from, near the couch and says, "This needs water," and walks out with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so as she's walking out, Fran walks in, and Fran's like, "Mr. Sheffield, do you remember when you told me that I could never have any more relatives stay at the house?" And he's like, "Yes, but more importantly, do you?" And she's like, "Well, would you make an exception for my daughter?" "Your what?" is his response. "My daughter." And she like does a little like flirty, like, I don't know, like wiggle for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she's like, "Yeah, didn't I mention that I have a 19-year-old daughter?" And he's like, "But that's impossible. That means you would have had to have been," and she cuts him off, 10. "I got her at a UNICEF fair when I was in high school, junior high, I mean, elementary school." And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, I think it's wonderful that you're a foster parent." And she's like, "Thank you. Does it give you any ideas, now that I have a kid and you have kids?" And then she starts singing the Brady Bunch theme.
Yep.
Till
Mm-hmm.
the one day when the lady met this fella. And Maxwell cuts her off. "If I say she can stay here, will you stop singing?" And she's like, "Oh, thank you. You're such a doll. Now I just hope she likes me. I'm not really good with kids." And then she realizes what she said. "I mean, my own kids."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she, I think, also realizes that she put her foot in her mouth still. And then Cece walks in holding a big frame saying, "Maxwell, this just came from the framers. Where do you want to hang it?" She turns to the audience so we can see it. And it says, "Baby."
Yep. Yep.
Do you have
I
anything
don't.
you want?
No,
Okay.
I don't. So fast forward, we're back in the living room. Well, we hear the doorbell, and Fran and Val are coming out, and obviously it's the next day, and they're both so excited, um, because she's here, she's here, she's here, and they open the door, and there's Mei Ling, and she comes in, and I mean, they make a comment. Oh, she sure did fill out for 17 cents a day. Side note,
Mhm.
there's going to be a lot of stuff I'm going to talk about after
Oh,
we
I'm
get through the
sure.
summary. Oh, yeah. But anyway, then Val starts loudly, almost yelling, not quite going, "Hello, Mei Ling. We are
Hmm.
your mother and mother." And then she still in that tone says to Fran, "Look how I'm talking to her like she doesn't understand." And it's like, and May is immediately like, "You must be Val."
Hmm.
Anyway, Fran's like, "Oh, come in, come in." They kind of bring her in, and May's looking around. "Oh, it's so beautiful. Is it your house?" And Fran's like, "Working on it, sweetie."
Hmm.
And then May's like, "Oh, I can't wait to meet your husband." Um, because first she asks, "Where's your husband? I can't wait to meet him." And Fran's like, "Hopefully at a very successful law firm or seeing a patient." Which, side note, that's kind of contradicting her earlier statement, but okay.
Hey, when you're Fran's age, you've got to have multiple.
Multiple options out there.
Correct. You got to keep your options open until you've got a ring on your finger. You got to
Hmm.
keep going.
So anyway, she's asking her, um, oh, to come, like sit. They all kind of go towards the couch. Come, talk with your mother. And Val's like, "Excuse me, I'm her mother too," and like sits on the other side of May. And
Hmm.
Fran's like, how could you afford to fly here? And May's like, whoa, I worked since I was 10 years old. And Val's like, they let you work so young there? And May's like, no, sometimes I have to lie about my age. And Fran's like, oh my baby. And like she like embraces her. And I don't know if you noticed, but May's face was kind of like, where like Fran's just like very happy.
Hmm.
Um, and then of course Val's like, she's my baby too. And they start bickering. Fran's like, well, it was my idea to buy her. And Val's like, it was my idea to go to the fair. And
Hmm.
May gets up, please, mommies, don't fight. It put knife through my heart. And Fran's like, there, she's Jewish, she's mine.
Exactly.
And that is the scene. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Can you take us again to the living room, but at a different time?
Yeah. So Sylvia and Yetta are there, and I think Fran comes in a bit, but Sylvia's telling Yetta that you're not going to win Publishers Clearinghouse, and basically she spent her entire Social Security check on magazines. And Sylvia's like, "What do you need with Runner's Digest?" And Yetta's response is, "I thought it just said digest."
Mm-hmm.
And Niles walks in. He's like, "What a pleasure, ladies. Haven't seen you in what? Oh, half a day. How did you get in?" Sylvia's like, "You left the door open." He's like, "You had a key made?" She's like, "Maybe that was it." "Where are you running, Niles, darling? I got a little something on my purse at the gas station. I wonder if you could get it off for me." And she hands him her purse and he looks at it and he's like, "What is this, grief?" And she's like, "Yeah, from a burrito." Um, and Fran comes in, "Hi, Ma, Yetta. Now, wait a minute. You two did go home yesterday, didn't you?" And so then
Yeah.
Sylvia,
Oh, one
oh,
one quick thing though, as like Niles is walking away with the purse, did you
oh,
notice?
yes, yeah. Fran gives him a look and he's like, "It's Sylvia's."
Hmm.
He has to explain himself for
Hmm.
Niles.
Sorry. And then yeah,
No, it's
Fran
okay.
comes.
Thank you. Um, and so Sylvia asks Fran what she's going to wear to Aunt Frida's birthday party. And Fran's like, "Oh, I got the most adorable little white polka dot dress with big colorful fruits on it." And in come Maggie and May. And Sylvia's like that, pointing at Mei Ling's dress. And Fran's like, "Yeah, that's it. Oh, you look great in it, honey. I'll wear something else to Frida's." And then she like brings Mei Ling over. "Ma, yet I want you to meet my daughter. She just arrived." Yetta takes a look at her, looks her up and down. "I hope you had a cesarean." And May explains that Maggie is going to take her to a party and she wants to look pretty like her mother. And as she mentioned, Val's there also because both Val and Fran say at the same time, "Thank you, sweetie." And they're like, "What are you saying?" says Fran to Val. Um, and Sylvia comments that, she's been here 1 week and she's in your clothes already. "I don't like it. You don't take advantage of someone when you're a guest in their home." And she immediately turns around and shouts for Niles, "How long does it take to clean a purse?" So
Hmm.
Fran walks with the girls towards the door, hands them their pocketbooks, and they're leaving. And so Maggie says, "It's time to party." And May is like, "But we have to be home early because Maggie has school tomorrow." And Maggie's like, "No, no, no, you say that in front of Dad. Fran's the one who taught me how to do that." And
Hmm.
Fran's like, "Yeah, I taught her everything she knows. Have fun. Bye." They leave. Fran comments about how cute they are. And Val's like, "Do you even know where she's going?" And Fran's like, "No, but I don't know where Maggie's going either." And Val's like, "Well, I don't think Mei Ling should go out dressed like that. She looks like a hooker." And Fran's like, "Val, that's my outfit." "Enough said," says Val. And Fran's like, "What is
Hmm.
that supposed to mean?" And Val's like, come on, is this a big revelation? You dress like a tramp. And Fran's like, you know what revelation means? And Val's like,
Mhm.
you're always undermining me now. Why do I always have to be the bad guy? You spoil her. And Fran's like, well, what's the big deal if I do spoil her? I can afford it now. And Val's like, please, it isn't your money. You're the hired help. And Fran gets all offended and hurt. Well, you really learn a lot about a person when you have a kid with them. That's all I can say.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and so we then are at Jack Miller, the therapist, at his office once again. It's been a little
right. Um,
years,
it's
and at Jack it was actually like Dr. Mo's feeding the fish. Um
yep.
and you know, Fran and Val are on the couch and they both have their legs crossed and like have that both of them are kind of kicking the top leg, like shaking it,
Mm-hmm.
agitated.
Yep.
And Jack's like, "Oh, I'm sensing a lot of anger." And they're like, "You think?" And Jack starts saying, "Oh, with couples therapy, um, I like to ask them, what first attracted to you to each other. As for my wife, she said it was my winning smile." And he has a totally straight face, uh,
Mm-hmm.
he's not smiling. So, but anyway, they talk about how, Fran says, "I've known her since kindergarten. I think I've just outgrown her." And Val's like, "See, she always acts superior to me." And even though like everybody and that's why everybody hated her in high school. And Fran's like, "Well, that's not what all the bathroom walls said." And
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, again, calls her stupid. Is that or Val saying like she's called me stupid or treated me like I'm stupid for 20 years and I'm damn tired of it. And Fran's like, "Well, I was always defending people who were calling you stupid." And she's like, "Well, I
Defending
was always."
you. She was
Huh?
defending Val. She was defending Val, not the people calling Val stupid.
Yeah, she was defending Val from people calling her stupid, and Val responds that she was always defending Fran from people who were calling her a slut. And Fran turns to Dr. Miller and is like, she thinks that's an insult. And then so Val continues about how they have different values, like how Fran is currently living with a man out of wedlock, and Fran's like, "I'm not in a relationship with Mr. Sheffield. I'm just the nanny." And Dr. Miller interjects here, "Congratulations, Fran. You just broke through your denial."
Yup.
And anyway, Fran, though, continues, like when you're in a relationship for so long, you expect a little magic to be lost, but this is beyond repair. We are over. I'm going to be suing you for full custody. And she gets up and she takes one of the throw pillows and throws it at Val and walks out the door. And Val gets up and, or Val's upset, "Big shot, huh?" She's standing next to Dr. Miller's chair. "Well, she'll be back. I drove her. She has my keys, but,
Mm-hmm.
she'll be back." And that's that scene. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, no.
Okay. Can you take us to Sylvia's and Morty's apartment?
Yeah. So, Fran comes in and she's whining, looking for her mother, and Sylvia's like, "What is it, darling? What?" And Fran's like, "Oh, I can't even talk about it." And Sylvia's like, "Well, good, because your father and I are going to the movies. If we don't get there before 3, we'll miss the free jalapeno nachos." And Fran just keeps whining and crying. "All right," says Sylvia, "what is it?" "Sweetheart, nothing is ever as bad as it seems." "Oh, Ma, it's over. We split up." "No, don't say that." Fran's like, "It's true. It was the worst fight we ever had." Sylvia's like, "Oh my God, I'm having palpitations. Quick, get me my medicine." And Fran races across the kitchen into the refrigerator and pulls out the Hershey syrup and hands it to Sylvia, who pours it on a spoon and, you know, licks it off.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, Fran continues, even Dr. Miller said we have irreconcilable differences. I'll kill that quack. You go back and beg for forgiveness. Bend a little, for God's sake. You're a single maid. And Fran's like, Ma, what are you talking about? Apologize to Mr. Sheffield, Sylvia exclaims. Ma, I'm talking about Val. Sylvia calms down, gets eerily still. I am missing jalapeno nachos for that moron. And Fran's like, well, consider it a favor to the people sitting behind you. And Sylvia's like, what the hell do you have to fight about with Val? And Fran's like, well, it all started over Mei Ling, but then, and Sylvia's like, darling, that's the problem with that girl. First, she busts up your friendship with Val. Next, she'll come between you and Mr. Sheffield. And Fran's like, oh, Ma, that's crazy. She's only 19. She's a baby. And Sylvia's like, and what were you doing when you were 19? And Fran's like, that's different, Ma. I was a very mature 19. I was 24. Besides, it's crazy. Mr. Sheffield is practically her foster father. And Sylvia turns to her and says 2 words, Soon-Yi.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to add anything?
Nope.
All right. Would you like to take us back to the Sheffield home?
Yes. So Fran comes in through the front door and Maxwell's already there and she goes, aha, what are you doing here in the middle of the afternoon? And Maxwell's like, my office is at home. And Fran's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, mister, I've got an answer for everything. Answer me this. Are you having an affair with Mei Ling? And Max was like, Miss Fine, are you insane? And Fran's like, I have never been this sane in my entire life. Or this thin. And she takes off her jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Now, if there's nothing going on between you two, then answer me this. Why do you look so unbelievably handsome? And explain that extra sparkle in your eyes. Hmm? And Maxwell very smoothly says, because I'm looking at you.
Uh-huh.
And then she kind of like pauses for a sec, but she's like, oh, please. If I'm so irresistible, why aren't you all over me? And he pulls her in for a deep kiss.
Uh-huh.
And then after, they pull apart, Fran goes, to hell with Mei Ling and grabs him and pulls him in for another kiss. And then Maxwell's the one who kind of disengages and is like, Miss Fine, I cannot believe you'd accuse me of such a thing. She's a teenager, for heaven's sake. I mean, it's not as if I'm some oversexed 16-year-old boy. And they both look at each other, like eyes widen in realization at the same time, and they bolt up the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of counted this as one whole
That's
scene.
fine.
Okay. So they storm into Brighton's room, and of course, Brighton and May are making out on his bed, sitting up.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Thankfully.
and Maxwell's like, "What the hell's going on in here?" And Brighton's like, "Well, Dad, I mean, she just knocked on my door, asked me how to spell a big word, and started kissing me." And Fran's like to Mei Ling, "How dare you?" I gotta try that. But how dare you? And Brighton's like, "No, it's okay, Dad, because we're engaged." And both Fran and Maxwell are like, "What?" And Maxwell is like, "You are nothing of the sort." And Fran's like, "What's the matter? My daughter's not good enough for you?" And Maxwell was like, "It's fine. They're not even they are not even they are not engaged, and that's that." And May, you know, i- interrupts here and says, "Hello, how else am I going to get my green card?" And Fran gasps, "Well, that's Val's side of coming right through there," she says to Maxwell. And Maxwell's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Brighton, how could you let yourself be taken in like this?" And Brighton's like, "Oh, well, let's see. I'm 16. She's a breathing female, and I'm 16. That's all you
Mm-hmm.
need."
Yep.
And that's the scene. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No. No.
Okay. Will you take us to the living room then?
Yeah. So Val lets herself into the living room magically. And she races in, Fran, I just got your message about Mei Ling. I can't believe it. Where did we go wrong? And Fran rushes to her, Val, it isn't our fault. We were too young when we had her. And they both apologize and say they missed each other. I love you. I'm sorry, etc. And then Val says to Fran, let's promise never to again let our kids come between us. And Fran's like, what kids? As of this moment, I'm disowning her. And she rips the sleeve of her jacket. Val says, me too, and rips the other sleeve off Fran's jacket. And That Fran's like, what? Val, what? And Val's like, well, why ruin two jackets? And Mei
Mhm.
Ling comes down the stairs. Hi, moms. Don't moms us. It's Miss Fine and Miss Toriello to you. And she's like, I'm so sorry that I hurt you. I'll leave and stay with my friend I met last night at the party. His mother has a big apartment in the city. And they like ignore her. And she's like, I'm walking to the door. I'm
Mhm.
almost to the door. Well, are you never going to speak to me again? Fran says, speak to you? You used us. You almost broke up me and your mother. And you hurt the people that I love. We can't even look at you. And they turn around and show her their backs. And she's like, well, if you change your mind, here's the number where I will be staying. If I or my friend Jason is not there, just ask for his mother, Miss Barbara Streisand. Goodbye, Miss Fine, Miss Toriello. Well, at the name Barbara Streisand, Fran and Val turn around. So formal with your mothers?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. And then so like our final little scene for this is Yetta in Sheffield living room going, "Thanks for taking these subscriptions off me, Neil." And we look and
Mm-hmm.
it's Niles standing next to her, and everywhere, like piled up, are different magazines. And Niles is like, "Yetta, you said there would be a few." And she's like, "I also said that you were invited to the wedding." And Niles is like, "Am I not invited?" And Yetta's like, "Oh, you'll be there, just not as a guest. Um, make sure to wear comfortable shoes." "Thanks,
Mm-hmm.
Neil." And then she like kisses him on the lips, walks off. And then so Niles walks over to the other side of the living room, and Maxwell sees him. And we see that Yetta has left behind her lipstick all over Niles's lips. And so
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell obviously sees the lipstick, makes kind of like a face. Niles is like, "What?" And Maxwell doesn't say anything. He just kind of like walks away, and Niles continues walking forward with the lipstick on. And that's the episode. Is there anything you'd like to add to that little bit?
There is not. I take it
Okay.
there are a lot of things you want to talk about.
Oh, I have a bunch. Maybe if you have anything, do you want to go first?
This
Or
episode makes no sense.
yeah.
That's all I want to say.
just just off the bat, makes no sense.
It
this
makes no
this is
sense.
not
It
how it
doesn't,
works.
right. It's not how it works. It also is not like it's not internally consistent with like the other episodes. It doesn't advance. I mean, I guess Fran and Maxwell kiss. Yeah, great. They do it twice, but it doesn't meaningfully advance the plot, even though he sweet talks her a little.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, so the heart of this episode is this premise that Fran and Val quote unquote adopted an orphan from Cambodia for 17 cents a day back in high school. As you like,
Elementary
first of all,
school, as
elementary school, no.
yeah,
But as you mentioned, like there has never been any mention of May prior to this episode.
correct.
That's not how adoption works. I mean, you could like support a child somewhere else, but like it but yeah, they're not moms. Um I don't know to what extent they've had even communication or whatever, but regardless, it's like a couple of things, right? They immediately kind of sexualize May when she gets there by commenting how she filled out, which unfortunately, again, there is this common thing that happens where like Asian women are sexualized. Um, they even say when they're arguing, like Fran says that she was the one, it was her idea to buy her.
Mm-hmm.
We don't actually see a lot of May in this episode. Um, but like I think it's unfair for Val and Fran to say that May was the one who almost broke up her mother's because she wasn't there was nothing in the plot that indicated she was purposefully pitting them against each other. That was entirely like Fran and Val kind of being competitive. Like I don't see where May was the one who is inciting that
She wasn't instigating it. No.
She did no, the only thing she did was wear Fran's dress, right?
Correct.
Um, Likewise, there was absolutely no indication. There was no, like, thing that was done that would be misunderstood or overtly showing May trying to seduce Maxwell in any way, right?
Hmm.
That was just something that Sylvia came up with, um, and then, like, Fran accuses Maxwell, but there was, again, no indication that that was what May was doing or anything could have been misconstrued as her doing that because we
Right.
don't even really see them interacting.
Correct.
So, like, again, um, portraying I didn't like how they handled May because I felt it was, uh, buying into stereotypes, treating her not really as human because, again, they were talking about buying her, uh,
Hmm.
and, like, automatically felt like they had the right for
That they
to
were
be
entitled.
entitled to be her mothers, even though, like, obviously they'd never really met before. They were just sending 17 cents a day. Like, she obviously was still having to work since the age of 10 in order to be able to, like, afford to come over in the first place. And then they also, like, in this episode, just have her straight out saying, "Well, how else am I supposed to get a green card?" Like, first of all, if that's, like, your goal, it's not like you would typically just come out and say without being prompted. But
You
2,
wouldn't say it even if prompted, would be my
yeah,
guess.
right? Um, and 2, like, Brighton's 16, so how are they gonna get married in the first place without parental consent? Like, again, I'm not familiar, though, with, like, New York laws, I don't know what age, but typically, it's, like, when you become age of majority, which is 18. So, like, as you were saying, just to summarize it, all of this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Um, and I just, like, personally I didn't like how they were treating May throughout. I think, again, if they had wanted to go down this I I don't know, it just doesn't make sense, and I think they villainize May. Um, and it's like, again, they were not interested in her at the end, they've disowned her until she has something of value for them. Um, so anyway, I was not a fan of that, and then there were also just the undercurrents, I'm sure you picked with, like, Niles and Maxwell's whole masculinity thing throughout.
Hmm.
Um, and we can talk about more of that in a shtick, but yeah, suffice it to say, I didn't really think this episode did a very good job of handling certain issues and topics. And again, as you said, it boils down to none of this made sense because
Correct.
that's not how adoption works. That's not even how being a foster parent is.
Even if it did, Mei Ling was 19, so there would be no suing over custody because she had reached the age of majority and could live where she wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, even like at times, like, think Maxwell referred to Fran as like a foster mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, foster parent. And again, that's not how it works either. Because, first of all, typically, and again, I'm not familiar with like New York, but typically you have to be licensed to be a foster parent. And again, it's for children. So, like, I mean, like under the age of 18, Mailing's already
19.
19.
Yep.
Um, Now, I'm sure that there are avenues for like people to, even after someone's 18, they might still be like a support for that person in some way, might still take them into their home and all that kind of stuff. But I just think it's not necessarily foster parent, quote unquote.
Right.
So anyway, that's my spiel. Is there anything else you'd like to talk generally before we jump into the
No,
shticks?
I generally agree with what you said.
Okay.
And I go back
So
to my summary that it made no sense.
exactly. Okay. So then let's jump into favorite fashion. Did you have any this week?
I kind of liked Fran's dress that Mei Ling borrowed with the white polka dots and the fruit. I know you don't like fruit on dresses, but I kind
No,
of like that.
I'm not opposed generally. Like, it's specifically with Fran, like some of her outfits, how they are in there, because I think she had what, like a couple seasons ago, that dress with like the vegetables
Hmm.
all
Yeah,
over
it
it
was
and
it was
stuff.
a suit jacket and skirt. She wore it in the first season. Why
Yeah,
do I
like,
know
I'm
that?
not opposed to, like, having but those particular outfits didn't do it for me. Like, I think I own a dress that has, like, a lemon pattern on it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm
I
not
thought you
opposed
just like
to it, but, like, patterns I'm fine with. It's just that these particular ones are, like, large fruit just placed on the dress. It's not like a pattern to it. Um,
they're like
so yeah, that's
accents.
interesting because I think if it was just a polka dot dress or just the dress with the fruit, I would like it more, but I wasn't as much of a fan of the combination of the polka dots with the fruit because it seemed a
Mhm.
bit more busy for me, but
Fair. But speaking of busy, I did not like Fran's like very bright, multicolored, floral slash leaf patterned pantsuit.
mhm. Question, is that what she's wearing too when, Mei Ling is leaving, like, to go to the party with Maggie?
No, I think then she was wearing a black suit with red accents.
Yeah, well,
I
no,
think.
because like, because I thought that whatever she's wearing when Val's, like, making the accusation, "You dress like a tramp," it was just, like, very, poor timing, I guess, with that because she was fully covered up from head
Yeah,
to
no,
toe.
that was the floral leaf pattern
Yeah,
pantsuit.
yeah, um, and so it's just ironic that it was at that specific moment that Val's, like, saying, "You dress like a tramp," and it's like she's covered from head to foot, like,
Right.
but, um I wasn't a fan of it. It was just interesting that, like, whenever Fran and Val are at Dr. Miller's, Fran's wearing that pantsuit with, like, flames,
Hmm. Yeah,
just to sh I guess, to reinforce the anger.
for some reason that was what I was thinking she wore when she and Val ripped the sleeves of her suit jacket, but now I think I'm
I
wrong.
think she was still wearing that, or not?
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
I don't know. Because like, she definitely was wearing it when she went to the therapy appointment. She goes and cry wait, okay. She goes and cries at Sylvia's after that, and I think then she comes home. So I think that all happens the same day. So I think she's still wearing that outfit when everything kinda comes to an head at the end.
Okay,
I
then
could
good.
be
Then I
wrong,
was right. That's what I thought too, but then I was like, wait, there's maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, sorry. I
I
need to
don't
not
know,
doubt myself.
but yeah, so yeah. And any other outfits you wanted to talk about?
No. How about you?
I do not have any others. So shall we jump into notable New Yorkers?
Sure. There weren't that many this week.
Mhm. I mean, we had Ed McMahon's Publishers Clearinghouse. I was trying to recall if that had come up before or not.
I don't think it did. So
Mhm.
Ed McMahon was an American actor, announcer, combat aviator, comedian, and game show host known for Who Do You Trust, Star Search, and other shows, as well as several films, including Fun with Dick and Jane. That's according to our friends at Wikipedia. Publishers Clearinghouse is an American company intended to be an alternative to door-to-door magazine subscriptions, but it's better known for its prizes, which were introduced in 1967. That's according to our friends at Wikipedia.
Mhm. My next one is Seinfeld. Did you have anything before that?
I'm going to wash that man right out of my hair.
Oh, yeah, that's literally right before that. Yeah.
It's a song from South Pacific, which was later adapted for a Clairol hair color commercial. And that's
Oh,
according to our friends at Wikipedia.
okay. And then Seinfeld.
A famous American sitcom, and I quote, about nothing, end quote, that aired from 1989 to 1998, which took place in New York. That's according to our friends at Wikipedia.
Did you put UNICEF on your
Uh,
list?
how about Elaine?
Oh, yeah, from yeah.
Elaine Benes? Benish? I never actually
I
watched
don't know.
Seinfeld. Okay,
I
cool.
did.
Neither of us knows. Um, a character from Seinfeld who's played by Julia Louis Dreyfus. That's according to our friends at Wikipedia. I should have put UNICEF, but I did not. UNICEF is UN. It's an organization that raises money for mostly children
Mhm.
um, in underdeveloped parts of the world.
And Brady Bunch theme song. Have
Yeah,
we talked about the Brady Bunch before?
I think we have. We definitely have. I just noted that the song Fran was singing was the Brady Bunch theme.
Mhm. Um, okay, question.
Answer.
That visual gag of Cece holding up the framed poster for Baby, is there actually some show called Baby, or was that just for purposes of that visual, like,
I
joke?
I thought it was just for the visual of the joke, especially because she had said that like on Seinfeld they didn't acknowledge Elaine's.
Yeah.
So like here they were acknowledging it without saying anything.
Mhm. I had Runner's Digest next.
Yes. So at the time of filming the show, it was fictional. It then was a website in the mid 2010s, which is now closed. And that is according to our friends at crunchbase.com.
Oh, that's interesting. I thought that existed,
Yeah,
like
I thought it did too because there is such a thing as a golf digest.
mhm. And I mean, there's Running magazines, so I just was like, "Oh, yeah, Runner's Digest. Must be a thing." Um, let's see.
I have just
I
one
have
more.
Suni.
That's
Su
the one I
is it
have.
Suni? Mhm,
Yeah. The adopted daughter of Andre Previn and Mia Farrow, who then married Woody Allen after Woody Allen ended his relationship with Mia Farrow. And that's according to our friends at Wikipedia.
mhm. Again, we have our up umpteenth, Barbara Streisand
Correct.
reference.
Which is why I didn't even bother to write it down.
Yeah, it's just I
They're ubiquitous.
never counted, and at this point, there's no way we could count how many times it was
Correct.
been mentioned in the series. So yeah, I think that's all I have.
Excellent. Same here.
Yeah, and I will just add that that Sunni reference again was like made a kind of up again that how they treated May, like that statement by Sylvia made it seem even more buying into stereotypes, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So anyway, do we have any Yiddish cop?
We do. In the first scene, we have Meshuggahs, which
Hmm.
basically means like a crazy or silly person, someone who's not in their right mind. Um, we have Mei Ling says something along the lines of this puts a knife through my heart, and Fran responds, "See, she's Jewish, she's mine." Um,
Hmm.
so it's clearly a reference to the Jewish guilt trip, which I then started Googling to like find the etymology of that term. I did not find that, but instead I found an article by the Canadian Jewish News, which quoted from the Urban Dictionary about Jewish guilt trip, and I quote: "The course of action taken upon a Jew when one feels they need to get their way. A Jewish guilt trip is more powerful than anything in this universe and can be very dangerous if not used correctly. Jewish mothers use this power quite a lot. These are performed best by Jews." End quote. It made me think there's a book that was published, I don't know how many decades ago, titled "How to Be a Jewish Mother," and it provides you the the necessary training to properly um, put a guilt trip on your family, specifically your children. Um,
Mm.
and then the last one I had was after Fran disowned Mei Ling, she ripped her jacket, and then Val ripped Fran's jacket also. And it's worth
Hmm.
noting that that is ripping clothing is a traditional mourning ritual called Korea, which literally means tearing. So before a funeral begins, after a loved one has died, close relatives perform Korea, tearing the clothing or cutting a black ribbon that is pinned to their clothing. It's a way of showing pain that we feel when we lose someone we love. Um, it also represents the feeling that the person who died has been torn away from us, and then the torn garment or the torn ribbon or the ripped ribbon is traditionally worn for 7 days during Shiva.
Hmm.
So
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't like because I figured like the ripping of the sleeve had some type of symbolism. I just wasn't sure whether that was like specifically associated with disowning or like you
no,
said, it actually just mourning.
yeah, it's a mourning thing, and so if you disown your child, it's as if your child died. Um,
Hmm. Makes sense. Yeah. So then 90s nostalgia.
the old New York City skyline.
Hmm. Yep. Again, the fact that, like, it was a letter that was
Yep.
sent, and so that kind of, um, helped with, like, the timeline shortening.
Hmm.
3 weeks from the date of this letter.
Yeah.
Uh,
Old cars.
mhm.
Um,
Yep.
the idea that Mei Ling decides to go stay at the apartment of someone she met the night before, that seems dangerous these days, probably more so than it was back then. Um,
Mhm.
although I suppose she really wasn't in any danger since her friend is Barbara Streisand's son. But still, um, seems concerning.
Yeah. I again, the the treatment of mailing,
Yeah,
unfortunately, there's still some of that today, but it just seemed especially so back
blatant.
then.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, again, like oh, just like a random comment because that made me think of like Brighton.
Yeah.
He's consistently just like so sexualized, like that's like his main character point, it seems, since the
Hmm.
beginning, which is like, oh, those boys, they can't control themselves kind of
Right.
thing.
Which is obviously not appropriate, not
Yeah.
an excuse.
That whole boys will be boys mentality.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, again, in terms of like when Maggie and Mailing go out for the party, and they're like, "Oh, we have no idea where she's going." We're like, today, like if she had a cell phone, there's apps like Life 360 and all of that. Then I know like parents will have like on their children's phones to just like know location wise where they are.
Hmm. Although, would that be appropriate for someone Maggie's age who's like in college?
Again, if they they would probably like delete it or like,
That's what I'm thinking.
reach a certain age, but I also know some people who are older and still have it just because they keep track of everybody.
Hmm.
Um I don't know, like again, I would think at a certain age like the kid would be able to be, a little more in control of that, but
Hmm.
just saying that that exists these days, or at the very least, they have cell phones, so, like, there is more of a way to communicate, should anything come up.
Right. Right. Agreed.
Mhm. And again, just that little whole side little thing with Maxwell and Niles about, like, masculinity and stuff.
Yeah, that felt dated.
Mhm. So, yeah, anything else regarding 90s?
I don't think so. I
Uh-huh.
don't. I mean, just the entire episode, in part because it makes no sense, just feels very dated.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Now, this week, we actually get to like add to the kiss count. So,
Woohoo!
Debbie, can you remind us where we were at prior to today?
We were at 29.
Hmm.
29 kisses between Fran and Maxwell that actually happened in the
Yes.
universe of the nanny, not those that happened in their dreams or their fantasies, but those that actually happened.
Yep. And we got to add two.
Correct.
So that brings us up to 31.
Woohoo!
Woo. We don't really have anything else in our other special
Uh,
categories or shticks, so future fun.
so, as we saw, Maxwell and Fran take a step forward in their relationship. More is coming, but as per usual, it's one step forward and two steps back.
Hmm.
Um, in well, next week, Fran is going to try pursuing a lifelong dream of becoming a weather girl, and Maxwell is worried that she's going to be so good that she's going to leave him. So he uses Gracie to, try to guilt her to go home. Don't worry, Fran was not a very good. She didn't even get to audition to be a weather girl. In 2 weeks, Fran is going to use guilt to get Maggie to agree to let Fran to go out with Maggie's professor because, as Fran puts it, I'm going to grow old and die waiting for your father.
Mhm.
The following week after that, Fran concocts a scheme to get Maxwell to propose to her impromptu at Niagara Falls. And believe it or not, it was successful. But she didn't hear the proposal. And then Maxwell suffers amnesia and forgot that he asked in the first place. Then the week after that, Fran and Maxwell go on their second date, which, as I've already indicated, is sort of disastrous. And then finally, or almost finally, the week after that, Maxwell again proposes, but Fran lets him out of his commitment because she realizes that she deserves a proposal based on love, not guilt. And then
Mhm.
finally, we don't see Mei Ling again, but Mei Ling is not Fran's only child. So,
Ooh.
yeah, that's the
Okay.
future fun for now.
Okay. So then it's time to do our episode ratings. As a reminder, we rate each episode from 1 to 5 lipsticks, with 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. These scores are arbitrary. Like, we reserve the right to change them. Um, this is just for fun. So, again, as always, if you have a different opinion, let us know.
And what's
Uh,
great is I believe this week it's your turn to go first.
I know, and I'm
I love
struggling.
it.
I'm struggling because here's the thing. I've already expressed my misgivings with this episode, like the things I don't it doesn't make sense. I don't like how they treat Mei Ling. I don't like, like aspects of this show. But there are a couple of things I did like about this episode.
The
One was
kisses.
the whole well, that obviously. And how smooth Maxwell was when he was like, because I'm looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Can
other
I just
thing,
sorry? Can I just chime in real quick? Um,
yeah.
do you so two semi-related thoughts. Or one episode that I want to point to two other things. Do you remember at the very beginning of season 3, there was the episode Pen Pal, and we had a very similar dynamic where there's a letter and someone's going to be in town like the next moment, and like, oh my gosh, we have to go see them. That's
Mm,
one. But second, in that episode, when Fran and Maxwell are waiting for Lenny, the Fran's pen pal, Fran comments to him about like, "Oh, you must have some surefire pickup lines," and he's like, "Well, yeah. The first is Maxwell Sheffield, Broadway producer," and then he's like, "And the second," and she's like, "And the other." He's like, "How do you like your eggs?" So every now and then he does like crop up with a super smooth like James Bond like sex symbol
mhm.
thing, and so I just wanted to tie back to that. Sorry to interrupt. Continue.
No, it's okay because he was very smooth. Like, and he kind
Mm-hmm.
of got the like look in his eye and stuff like that as he said it. But the other scene, as I really enjoyed Cece's visual, like the fact that like they addressed it without addressing it, like specifically stating like the actress is pregnant by pointing
Right.
out how it's done in other sitcoms and like being very obvious about it with how huge that bag is on her shoulder and how she very purposefully changes it to her other shoulder when she turns the other direction, how she picks
Mm-hmm.
up like the plant to hold it in front of her like, oh, this needs watering, how she brings in that framed poster that says baby. Like, I thought that was very fun. um because again, it's like just really it's kind of meta.
Right.
Breaking that fourth wall. Um, so those I think were like my favorite aspects of this episode were
I concur.
Cece's little thing and then like obviously Maxwell and Fran kissing. Where I'm struggling with like rating it is again, I think there's a lot more things I'm like critical of this episode than I was like last week.
Mm-hmm.
But also like comparing the two, um, like I'm having difficulty rating this one because I think last week I gave it a 4.
You did.
Um, and like I feel like the things I like in this one I like more than the things I liked in that other episode, but at the same time there's more critical things in this one. I don't know, Debbie. For now, I'm just gonna give it a 4.
Okay.
I don't know, Debbie. It's hard because I it didn't make sense, but compared to last week, I don't know, because I really liked the kisses. and I really liked Cece's scene. I d
Yeah, but I guess I'm amazed at how much those counteract all the things we didn't like about the episode.
I know, so maybe 3.5, I don't know. This
It's
is
up to you,
I'm very
whatever you want to put.
well, that's the thing, I'm struggling how to because I guess I might need to later lower last week's episode then too, I don't know. So,
Well,
yeah,
we do reserve the right to change them. So,
I'll go 3.5, and
okay,
I might
3.5.
adjust everything, I don't know. You go ahead.
I mean,
What do you
I agree. I love the baby joke with Cece. I love Maxwell being smooth and like sweet talking Fran. Although side note, like it would be nice if he would like consistently like move forward with their relationship and compliment her and things like that. But anyway, he doesn't. Um, I just really don't like this episode. I For all the reasons we talked about at the beginning of our discussion of it, it doesn't make any sense. They're dated stereotypes. I don't like how mailing is used to drive a wedge between Fran and Val. I don't like how she's trying to use Brighton for a green card. I don't like any of it other than the kiss between Fran and Maxwell and Lauren Lane's comment, like joking about her pregnancy. Um, it's not an episode I go out of my way to watch. I honestly only rewatched it once in preparation for today because I do not like it very much. But considering like I'm trying to figure out like do I like it more or less than the Bobby Fleckman story? Probably less. I'm surprised. Like I'm looking at my ratings, and I'm surprised that I have like Ransom higher than the X Niles. Like like thinking about them a little bit removed. Like I would put Mommy and May like lower than those. Oh, also side note, Mommy and May. I think that's a reference to Mommy and Me, like a Gymboree class.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
because we didn't cover that.
yeah, we
Uh,
didn't yeah.
so honestly, I'm gonna give this a 2.5. Because
Yeah.
I don't care
I
for
think
it.
I think the difficulty with the ratings this season is that we've had so many lower ones, and, like, me personally coming into it, I don't know what's to come, and then so I don't know how, like, relative to each other it should be, if that
Fair.
makes sense.
I mean, I do know what's coming, and like there are some really good and some not so good, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm looking at the remaining episodes this season, just like the listing, and there are some that like I would not want to like I don't enjoy, and there are others that I love and will rewatch ad nauseum because I enjoy them so much.
Yeah.
And then there's some that I just like no opinions on. They're
Yeah,
just like
they're
me.
a bit more, yeah, like, ambivalent.
Exactly. I'm ambivalent about them. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. So again, these are just for fun, although it stresses us out sometimes apparently to
Apparently,
actually, give it a rating. But yeah, I guess listeners, let us know what you think. Um, and again, subject to be adjusted when we do our season wrap up. So,
exactly.
anything else you want to talk about before we sign out?
Nope. How about you?
I don't believe so.
All right. That's all we have for you today. We hope you had a fine time with us as we revisited the nanny. Join us next time when we'll be discussing episode 109, Fair Weather Fran.
If you'd like to reach us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at Nanny Revisited. You can also send us email at a fine time nanny revisited at gmail.com. Have a great week.